What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Louis P, and I'm back with another one. And today we're gonna keep it in the vein of film. We're gonna discuss remakes and my inherent issue with the creatively bankrupt era that we seem to be in, when we seem to be getting just regurgitated, recycled, rehashed products from a bygone era that seem to be remade and repurposed for this era without any creative care in mind. Seems like it's just like all just factory produced. And I mostly want to speak about my inherent issue when it comes to remake. Now, I don't have a problem with the concept of a remake, because I believe the concept of taking something that was done in a certain time period and doing it again, if there's something that can be added to it that can make it better. There are certain movies that you have, like Spawn, for example. I feel like Spawn is a good movie that you can look at, that at least for me, that I look at and say, you know what? I understand why someone would want to try and remake this, because now with the technological advances we've made and the capabilities we have with CGI and effects, there are a lot of things that we can do with a Spawn movie that we were unable to do in 1997. But I feel like the problem when it comes to a lot of remakes is they lose what made them special. It's very difficult to take something that was loved by a certain era in a certain time period and by a certain group of people, and take a product and say, okay, we want to appeal to these people, but at the same time, we want to make changes to get another crowd in. Because I feel like the problem that you run into is, how do you keep the essence of what it is that made people fall in love with it in the first place and change things up to justify your remake existing? And I feel like certain movies fall victim to, well, I feel like most remakes fall victim to expectations as opposed to what you realistically can do with a remake. For example, the It 2017 remake is an example of a very well done remake. I feel like you took the elements of what made the original great and what made people love the original. You kept those elements, but you expanded upon it in ways that you can do in today's era. Bill Skarsgård's performance of Pennywise, it didn't feel like he was trying to be Tim Curry. It felt like he was trying to do his own interpretation of Pennywise. And for me, I feel like it worked very well. He had certain CGI advantages that Tim Curry did not have, but I still feel like it worked out pretty well, and it's a very good remake, in my opinion. But for the most part, when it comes to most remakes, they suffer from what I want to call legacy love. And see what I'm going to use this as an example: the Nightmare on Elm Street remake and the Child's Play remake. These are two examples of remakes that I'm not the biggest fan of them personally, but I want to speak on the performances of Freddy and the performances of Chucky. If you're asked to bring a character to life that has already been immortalized by an actor before you, like Chucky and like Freddy have, that's very difficult, because you're going to fall into a bracket of, you're either going to attempt to make the character your own in a way that can turn off a lot of fans of that character, because in their minds, that's not the character, or you're going to attempt to do what was already, what has already existed, essentially an imitation of what is already out, and you're never going to live up to the original. You're never going to live up to Robert Englund. You're never going to live up to Brad Dourif. So I do feel like the performances of Chucky and the performance of Freddy were not necessarily bad attempts at making the character their own in their own special way. But I feel like these are two characters that are just immortalized with fans in being a certain way. And I feel like that greatly affects how we judge the performance and how we judge the movie. And I've seen people make comparisons to Child's Play 2019 and Megan, essentially saying, well, they're the same movie, but people seem to love Megan, but they bashed Child's Play 2019. And this is the biggest issue with a remake. It's hard to judge a remake on its own merit. You're going to judge it against what it is a remake of. So while you have these two movies of Megan and Child's Play that in concept are essentially the same movie, an AI doll programmed to be one way with humans, something happens, it ends up turning on the humans, blah, blah, blah. It's essentially the same concept, but Megan does not have the backing of an existing IP to fall back on or to be judged against. Whereas Child's Play 2019 does. For better or for worse, it does. So people are going to compare Child's Play 2019 to the OG Child's Play. And when we see Mark Hamill of being Chucky, not to say he did a bad job, but again, there is a certain way we expect or a certain way we are used to Chucky being. And that was not what was brought to us in Child's Play 2019. Now, had that been its own thing, like Megan was, it could have been judged on its own merit. Megan took that concept and made it its own thing. And in my opinion, I feel like that's what Hollywood should do more of. Instead of essentially just remaking a film because in your mind, you feel like I can do this concept better, or I have different ideas for this concept. So instead of taking an IP and we're going to remake this because I have ideas to do it better, I feel like, why don't you just take the concept and make your own thing? An example of that would be Die Hard, right? Let's say if someone wanted to remake Die Hard, you're never going to get the fan base of Die Hard to look at another actor of this generation and say, yes, the new John McClane. It's just not. Bruce Willis is John McClane. And if you're going to take this movie and try to remake it, you are going to fall short of what Die Hard, the franchise, means to the fans. Because the only reason you're doing this is because you want to use the IP to sell it to the fans. So you want the fans of Die Hard to show up to your movie to watch it. But you had a series, you had a span of what some people like to call Die Hard ripoffs, where I don't really think they're Die Hard ripoffs. They're different movies with the same concept. The three that come to mind are Speed, Passenger 57, and Under Siege for me. I watched these movies when I was as a kid growing up, and I enjoyed all of them. And I enjoyed Die Hard. And they're all the same concept. You take an officer or a lone officer of some sort, put him in a situation he didn't expect to be in. Terrorists come to this location. Innocent people are in trouble. This person has to save the day. It's the same concept, but they all exist on their own merits. Speed exists on its own merit, even got a sequel. Under Siege exists on its own merit, even got a sequel. Passenger 57 exists on its own merit, as opposed to expecting Die Hard. No, you can do all the little changes and add all the flavor you want because it's its own thing, rather than trying to just use a name to sell a fan base. And if you're going to do remakes in concept more so than execution, just make it your own. Do your own thing instead of trying to mooch off an IP. And it would honestly be for the better. Going back to the Child's Play 2019 remake, another remake that came out that I feel suffered from that was Wrong Turn. Not to say any of the Wrong Turn movies are highbrow, great cinema or anything. I'm not saying that. I enjoy them for what they are. But I do feel like a lot of people went into Wrong Turn, the new Wrong Turn, expecting what we were used to with the other Wrong Turn movies. These hillbilly inbred characters, people drive and make a wrong turn, and they come across them, things happen. The concept was still the same for the remake, but in execution, it was something totally different. For me, when I first watched it, it threw me off a bit because I wasn't expecting a cult type situation. I was expecting what I thought Wrong Turn would be. And even in the trailer, the first trailer, they don't really reveal that it's a cult. They don't really reveal anything. You just assume it's these inbreds that we're used to. And what we got was essentially a cult called the Foundation. And I feel bad because it's not a terrible movie. For me, I just wasn't expecting that. Let's say this movie was called The Foundation instead of Wrong Turn. I feel like it would have gotten a better reception, because then you would be going into it and judging it on its own merit rather than against what you expected it to be because you wanted Wrong Turn fans to show up for this movie. And this is where the big problem with a lot of remakes come into play. Very rarely does it work out in a way where your remake eclipses the original. It's not really a common occurrence. And a lot of movies that are remade, in my opinion, don't seem to be remade because you're taking a movie that at one point, due to certain restrictions of its time period, we are going to remake now because we have the advancements to do certain things better. It just seems like now we're just getting remakes because Hollywood is creatively bankrupt. So now we're getting a lot of, we're getting Disney redoing all of their classic movies that don't really need to be remade, but because it's an existing name that has a built-in fan base, you want those fans to rush out and see it. But then you make certain changes to these movies that piss off the fan base and then blame the fans when they reject your remake. And it just becomes a cycle of what we're getting now, to where a lot of times the blame is being put back on the fans for not liking the stuff they're given. No. It's not the fans' job to like everything they're given. It is the creator's job to create things that the fans want to see and will pay for and will like. You can't get mad because people don't accept your work. You're never going to please everybody no matter what you do. But I feel like a lot of what we get are just lazy, rehash, cash grab products. And therein lies the problem. Yes, the original will always exist, even if something gets a remake. But at the same time, you are remaking something that has a fan base because you want those fans to show up. Period. Otherwise, you would just take the concept and you would do your own thing with that similar concept, but do your own thing. But then you would have to stand on your own without a recognizable title to fall back on. And that's where I feel like is the split. But, I mean, I want to know what you guys think, man. Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? This is just my opinion. This is just me getting my voice out there. We have a lot of remakes that are coming out. Some that I am actually interested in to see where they're going to go with it. And some that I just look at and just think like, why? Why are we doing this? But let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think I'm right? Do you guys think I'm wrong? Give me your opinion down below. Like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned, man. Peace.